Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Hey, Atlanta. Say hello to Small Business Help from Apple. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
I'll be that guy in the cinema watching Saw, and I'll literally scream at the screen, but it doesn't actually terrify me. Now, there is a bit in Creep, there's a particular bit that actually frightened me, and I was like, I jumped out of my chair, I was like, no, stop, that is too much.
You have life before Creep and you have life after Creep, and things are never quite the same because it's such a fucking weird film. It's so weird. It's really, really dark. Hey everyone, our guests today joining us on Flixwatch are Barney.
Hey.
Laila.
Hello.
And Kobe.
Hiya.
And we're here to talk about the lovely family-friendly film, Creep.
Thank you as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes that you can hear right now. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for editing this podcast. Please do remember to head over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts to give us a 5-star rating and a glowing review, and join in the conversation with us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod or Instagram at Flixwatcher.
Hello film fans, welcome to Flixwatcher Podcast. Our guests today are Laila and Barney. Over to you please, Laila, to say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about who you are and what you do, please.
Hi Flixwatcher listeners, I am Laila and I am from a band called Sonic Boom 6, and I am the singer, and I love music, I love films, I love books, I love anything that I can immerse myself in, and like have a little bit of an escape, but also be slightly, is harrowed a word? Or I don't think it is, but
I think so.
Yeah, be harrowed. I like to be pushed to the edge when it comes to what I consume visually, spiritually, mentally, physically. And
who are you, sir?
I'm Barney from Sonic Boom 6. I like to be pushed to the edge physically.
This film did.
We talk about Creep now then.
Tell us first of all why you chose it, and then we'll give you got the 60 seconds for the synopsis.
All right. Well, I love horror films. You know why I chose it? It's really simple, right? I go on any of them like 40 most extreme films ever lists that you might see. You know, you get Serbian film, you get Human Centipede, you get Men Behind the Sun, you get Theatre of Blood. I've been watching horror films since I was old enough to know what they are, since we had Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the top shelf of our toilet downstairs in my house. I've been watching horror films as young as anyone, or at least been fascinated with them. There's only a few films that have ever scared me. One is when I was about 10, I got left in a lobby in a hotel in Spain, and I was watching Friday the 13th 2. Now, Friday the 13th 2 is taut. It's the one when he's got a bag on his head. It's the one before he gets the mask. And there's a scene when he's chasing this woman and she gets in a car and she's like hiding from him and he's stabbing this like a scythe through the car, and it's terrifying. And I was far too young to be seeing it. And I remember my heart was going like that, and I was just like, just kill her, just kill her, just kill her, just kill her. I couldn't stand it. And then from then on, I just always loved horror films. I always loved extreme films. Now, there's very few films. I'll be that guy in the cinema watching Saw, like I saw Saw 10 recently, and I'll literally scream at the screen, but it doesn't actually terrify me. Now, there is a bit in Creep, there's a particular bit that actually frightened me. And I was like, I jumped out of my chair. I was like, no, stop. That is too much, because I was that invested in it. And then I love horrors. Yeah. And this is it. So the reason I chose Creep is because it actually, and where nothing else can. Maybe the odd thing, like I'll watch The Big Short, and after it I'll go, God, I'm scared of how awful humanity is and capitalism is. But there's very few horror films that scare me, and that did. It terrified me.
So tell us the synopsis in 60 seconds or less, starting now.
Well, Creep is very simple. It's a two-hander. It's two guys. It's an actor and a director, and they've put this basic two-hander together to showcase each other. It's about a man that hires somebody ostensibly to come to a cabin and film a video of him making a film for his unborn child. The guy's low on money. He needs to pay his rent. He's a bit suspicious of what is going on. And as the day unravels, it gets increasingly strange, increasingly confusing, and increasingly funny, but also increasingly terrifying. It's a tour de force as far as auteur filmmaking, in terms of just going, here's a camera, and it's a found footage film, but it's a completely new twist on that. So it might have roots in something like the Blair Witch, but it takes it in a whole different direction. And
there's the timer. Does this push you physically, Laila?
Oh, every time he jumps out, like by the fifth time, I'm just like, I wanted to murder him. I wanted to actually murder. He's so annoying. But the thing for me, it's that cat and mouse chase. He's playing with him. He's constantly like, he's the cat. And that the man is like the mouse, and he keeps like toying with him. And oh God, when he says, come back for a drink, and the guy's like, no, I'm all right. I'm going to go home. Come back for a drink. No, I'm all right. I'm going to go home. Come on, come for a drink. Because you know what? This is a lesson. This film is a lesson. People pleasing will kill you. Because honestly, I started to have very little sympathy for the actual guy, because if you cannot communicate what you need, you are going to die.
No, you love Josef. So
there was bits when Josef was talking, especially at the end, where he's like, you see the good in everyone, and you hurt my heart. And I looked at my husband and I was like, oh my God, I sound like Josef. And he just looked at me and laughed. But it's that manipulation. But that guy in the end, just say, and I know when my mum does this, it annoys me. Oh my God, just go home. And I'm like, there'd be no film.
Yeah.
But I'm working on people pleasing at the moment. So I think, they say if you spot it, you've got it. And the guy that gets killed,
Aaron,
was annoying me so much, because I'm like, if you were just firm, because when he went, and then he goes, oh, mate, I don't know. All right, I'll come in for a whiskey. And then he jumps out at him. And I'm like, you deserve that.
But that misses out. It misses out another bit. But yeah. I mean,
so what's the bit that scared you?
Well, don't forget that what's the bit that scared me? Okay, so don't forget that he drugged him. Don't forget that Aaron drugs Josef before the jump out.
This is before he goes for the drug. So they come home from that run, and he's like, come on, let's celebrate our first day together. So it's before he drugged him. Like, you just like, hey, just say.
Oh yeah, you'd say leave it, but that's the conceit of the film. That's Othello, innit? If he didn't overhear it and he didn't just talk about it, it's Breaking Bad. You're allowed one thing where you go, nah, that'd never happen. Yeah, he is too trusting of him. But the bit that was terrifying for me, because I think I think the film works because he plays it so straight. It's almost like he plays it, Mark Duplass, he almost plays it like he's a character from The Office, and in the American Office. There's this sort of earnestness, like it's on documentary, but there's this silliness to it that is slightly hyper real, whereas the other guy, it feels like the American Office. So I think that's very clever, because it's got that familiarity about it. But what I thought was what is really interesting in it is it constantly shows you what it's going to do. It tells you. It's Columbo. He keeps telling him. And that's why it's a rewatchable film, but we'll get to that. But he keeps telling him what he's going to do, and then he keeps going for it. But the first time you watch it as a viewer, you think, because you know that and you're recognizing that at some point Aaron's going to turn it on him. So there's times where you think, and there's a sort of gay dating app subtext thing where you're left in a room with another man, and there's this power dynamic. Can I beat that other man? Could I have him? There's all this thing going on, and there's all this stuff you're thinking about, but they absolutely do like a shell trick on you, because at some point in that film, I'm sure we all wondered, is Aaron going to actually kill him or something? Is this going to have a mad twist, even as it goes on? But for me, that you've got Peach Fuzz, you see Peach Fuzz, you sort of forget about Peach Fuzz, but you don't forget about Peach Fuzz. You know he's there. And what's so brilliant about that shot is that conventionally, like, the best horror jump scares ever are like The Exorcist 3, where it's very, 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 very quiet, and the director has established like this leading shot that you're in, and then you forget you're in, and then you forget yourself, and it goes bang like that. Whereas this was completely different. He's panicked. He's gone outside. He spoke to him. He's confronted him. He runs off. At that point, you freaked out. And then he goes down the stairs, and the camera turns, and he's just there at the door in the Peach Fuzz factory. He doesn't jump out. He's actually there. And you see him before you recognize that you've seen him. You see him for a good 2 seconds, and then you're like, oh my God, it's him in the Peach Fuzz back. And then he's just like, leave it, mate, leave it, mate, leave it, mate. And then he's shaking his head, and he said, you're not going to leave it. He nods. And then when he just starts wiping his ass on the door, I was just like, no, that I was ruined. That's the only time in a film, because I was Darren. I was like that. And you've got this little guy you think you could probably have in a fight, but you don't want to have him. He's got this Peach Fuzz mask on. He starts wiping his bum on the door. No. I thought that bit was so brilliantly done. And that's that power of that found footage, because you can see it as you would see it at the time. And there's no jump scare, but you jump. It's a gradual jump scare, because he's there in the shot. And it takes you a second to see it. I just thought that is cinema gold for me, that bit.
You're talking about like the jump bits, and I know that wasn't at all, was it? Like, you see him and you kind of go, but it doesn't do the jump where it's like, rah.
It doesn't jump out, but he's there, yeah. And it dawns on you.
The one that got me was the best bit at the end, when he's rewatching it in the van. He's rewatching it and he goes, now everybody, everything is okay, everything is calm. And like, you're just like, you absolute knobhead. Like,
one last one for the road.
But he's, oh my God, that ending is just.
It takes a turn away, doesn't it, from the two guys in a cabin, and then he ostensibly escapes, and you think, okay, he's fine. Don't worry about it, he's fine. And then there's this series of like stalkerish things happening, him turning up in his house, and it becomes worse and worse. And an extended, protracted like scenario, which you feel uncomfortable with. And then there's a reconciliation. You think everything's going to be fine. But of course, there's Chekhov's axe, which we saw in the first minute of the film. And you're just like, this is good. But the actual final blow kind of makes it's always played for laughs, isn't it? It's like a comical thing. Because he poisons himself there. He's there for a good like 10 seconds. Anyone else would have turned round, because there would have been some kerfuffle behind. Round? Yeah, and he said, why didn't you turn round?
Well, it's his outfit. Think about what he's wearing. He's dressed like an absolute maniac. Like, he's wearing that. Like, but it reminds me of I can't remember what it's called. It's like a 70s horror film with Michael Caine in it. And it's like this person that's wearing like a raincoat, and they come out of the lift with a knife. And it really reminded me of that bit. And, Barney, you know what it is. Is it I can't remember. But anyway, and it reminded me that it's like anything, just how can we make, right, we're going to do this. This is the scene we're going to have. What shall I wear? Because he could have just been wearing because his clothes all the way through are something that I picked up on. Those leggings that Josef is wearing when you first meet him, you're just like, it's just, that's already a serial killer. Like, you know, and then he's sort of like, he's got that purple t-shirt on when he's doing the video, because he's like, I'm being a nice guy now. I want him to come, you know, you see the good in everyone. And then he's just wearing like a weird Columbo overcoat.
how else are you going to hide the axe? It's either an axe or a full-length shotgun. Helen, Creep, we've had this nominated a couple of times. This is the first time we're actually recording this episode. So how many times have you seen Peach Fuzz, and how many times has Peach Fuzz scared you?
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
So yeah, this was one that was picked a long, long time ago. And sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But occasionally I'll watch the films quite early. So I just want to say thank you, Barney, for picking it so we can finally kind of get out the feelings. So I kind of feel like you have life before Creep and you have life after Creep. And things are never quite the same because the feelings that you go through, it's feelings that are just very special between you and Creep. Perhaps the same feelings that Aaron and Josef have. It's such a fucking weird film. It's so weird. It's really, really dark. I've seen it twice now. I've also seen Creep 2, Creep 3, When, Please. And I've also seen Baghead, which has got Greta Gerwig in it, which is why I saw it. But you can kind of see some of the ideas behind Creep sort of appear in that, and there's little bits in it, but Baghead is nowhere nearly as good as this. But yeah, there's just so many moments in it that will just make you feel incredibly uncomfortable. Like when there's a moment where he's in his house and he's watching him as he sleeps and he's creeping around and he cuts a bit of his hair, and I just don't like that at all. And the whole thing where he's in the bath as well, so he gets naked quite a lot, Josef, but that's his real. He gets even more naked in the second one, spoilers. So when he's in the bath and he suddenly kind of like zones out as well, like the whole thing in the bath, and he's
what do they call it? Tummy time, bath time,
tubby time,
yeah.
So yeah, tubby time, Peach Fuzz, they're so creepy and so uncomfortable. I love it.
And then the phone call, he thought it was his wife, but it was his sister saying, "You're okay as long as you get out." Don't.
Well, just to take it back to Tubby Time. So this is the first experience that this guy has with Josef. Think about it. They don't have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
He gives him his money and he explains what he wants from him. And then he goes, "I'm going to have a bath." That is when he should have been like, "Mate, you know what? This is too weird."
But he was lured in by the fact that this is you're recording my almost death wish, my death message to my unborn child.
True.
And at what point would you kind of say, "No, I don't want to do that"? You'd be kind of like, "Okay, if I can help in some way, I've got a camera here. I'm going to get paid." And also, I mean, it's very, very weird if you don't, whether you know the person or not. But also, because you're not the naked person, you kind of feel. I would at least feel like, well, at least I can more readily get away if something happens here. I can't see that many things going wrong here.
Yeah, that people pleasing again.
Yeah.
It does play with that dynamic of what you would actually. I mean, it does let us through the whole thing. Is what would you do?
But that's the staple with all horror, though, isn't it? There's like, don't go through that door, you idiot.
Yeah, with that, it's a lot. But it does kind of go, if it's just you and another person away from everybody else,
isolated. Yeah,
is that person gonna dominate you in a way because they're just pushing further? And it does make you think about that. It's a comedy as well, so it's kind of like it's just one. There are a lot of psychological elements of it, but it's supremely silly at the same time. I mean, the Peach Fuzz is hilarious but terrifying.
I do like. Is it? You said Mark Duplass. I thought it was Jay Duplass, but the Duplass guys.
This is Mark.
Yeah, Mark Duplass, yeah, and Patrick Brice is the director, yeah.
There is another Duplass.
Yeah, Jade,
This is a
isn't it?
different one.
Yeah.
He's got a really interesting face, and he uses it a lot in this, doesn't he? He's got a really big kind of smile, maniacal. I've seen him in the morning show where he plays like a more kind of straight-faced person, but also the range of his emotions do get expressed fully on his face. But from the tubby time to when he's kind of role-playing what would happen if he was in a bed with him, if he was in a bath with his unborn child, through to finding the heart-shaped rock, through to like not wanting to escape because he's stolen his phone and he wouldn't let the director escape, through to him addressing the camera directly. His face is like, it's almost like the Joker in a way, isn't it? It's almost like a cartoonish maniacal person, and he's got a great face for it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The way he plays it like a very good sitcom character. Say Parks and Recreation, something like that. But in terms of the way it's all slightly hyper-real, it's like someone wouldn't really act quite like that, but then he infuses that with this absolute, like, sinister... That's what I'm saying. He's smaller than him when he gets in front of the door, but you're like, okay, now it's like being attacked by a dog. There's like no reasoning with it. It's like, God, and he absolutely inhabits... He's fully plausible and believable of somebody that will love you to death. Like, he loves him. He genuinely loves him. Like, at the end, he is his favourite. Like, there's absolutely no doubt about that. He is his favourite ever. And he does love him, but it's like the scorpion and the mouse or whatever it is. He has to kill him, or the viper and the mouse or whatever it is. It's like, well, I'm a viper. Yeah, he has to kill him because he's told him. He's told him he's going to... And he actually talks him through it. He goes, when I jumped out, you got scared then, didn't you? Like, he actually tells him throughout the film. Not only does he tell him he's going to do it, but then after he's done it, he reflects on it and basically goes, that means I'm mad, right? Like, he warns him, and that's the pleasure of it, I think. That's why it's so funny, and it's short, and it's silly, but there's a lot in there, definitely.
Sure. Should we head to the scores, guys?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
Welcome to our Flixwatcher scores. They are always out of 5. You can have decimal places if you wish, and we will start with you, please, Barney, because you picked it with your recommendability.
Recommendability. I mean, I'd say 5. I'd say to anybody that likes films. I mean, I suppose if somebody's going to be queasy and mardy or don't like horrors.
Mardy.
Well, I watched it with my mum and dad, but they watch, you know what I mean? So it's not the most extreme of films. It's not like gory or it's so... I mean, I'd recommend it to everyone to watch it just to experience it, because to me, it's like when they say... I like films like, like Mother, Darren Aronofsky's Mother, and people will be like, that's the worst film ever. But I like films like that are spectacular failures. And this isn't a failure really on any level, but I could understand someone watching it and going, nah, I just didn't get it, or it wasn't that good. I can't get that with this. But I think so many films are like either these massive budget superhero films or sequels, or they're little interesting low budget things. There's no sort of middle ground. I like films that take risks and are really different, and I'd much rather watch something. And this is two people. This is real cinema to me in a way, because it's like it's so handmade, and it's like almost like a little DIY project, and it's a calling card for his direction and his acting. So if you're into films, I think it's a great film to watch, even if you might... I respect someone that came away from it and said, I didn't think it was that good, because it maybe just not your sense of humour or whatever, but I'd recommend it at 5 because I do recommend it, and I did.
Laila.
I really love it, but as far as recommending it, I'd probably say 3, because I don't think there's a lot. And I can see the comedy elements, but I've got mates that would just be like, what? Like, why did you make me watch that? And they would never, ever, ever forgive me. Like, they'd never forgive me if I was like, you've got to watch this film, because they wouldn't be expecting that. So, yeah, three.
Would anyone be expecting it?
Yeah, 3 for the sake of people's mental health.
Helen?
So, do you want life before Peach Fuzz or life after Peach Fuzz? That's it. This is like one of the hardest ones I've been thinking about for recommendability. Like, I love Letterboxd reviews, and I was shocked at how many 3 stars were in there. I'm like, these people just don't know what they're missing. I mean, I would like to recommend it to everyone, but I feel that may out me as a massive weirdo, and people may stop asking for recommendations from me if I keep telling them they should watch this. But I think if this is your bag and you kind of like really weird stuff that's a little bit kind of DIY and a bit lo-fi, then you should definitely watch this. But also there's going to be a lot of people who are just going to be like, no, this is not for me. So I'm going to give it a strong 4.
I'm going to give it 3.8. I like the lo-fi nature of it. I like the fact that horror and comedy can be done on a low budget, and if they're done well, they can cross into the stratosphere. I don't think this made those kind of waves, but I think people who saw it and liked it, you know, kind of really took it to the heart, as Barney clearly has done. But also, I think the lo-fi nature of it will just put people off. I think the randomness of it will put people off. I think the storyline behind it will just scare people. So I think it will be tough to recommend willy-nilly ad hoc. So yeah, 3.8. Repeat viewing score, Barney.
Good. I mean, because it's so short and because it's very it's a lot of the comedy's improv, I think, but that's the 3rd time I've watched it and I was noticing new things. Like, I think the first time you watch it, as I say, it plays with your expectations very well because it knows what you're thinking as an educated horror viewer, which the vast majority of the audience is going to be. Or even, it's not really a horror, is it? It's more like, you could equally call it sort of a thriller, really. Or, I mean, a comedy as well, a black comedy. But I think it plays with your expectations really well. And then when you see the machinations of how it does that, when you watch it at repeat times, I think it stands up to repeat viewings. And I definitely thought that the way he keeps warning him, it comes to you the more you watch it. It's like he actually telling him what he's going to do. And he's reveling in it. And that's what he's getting off on. And he's enjoying it. And when something's that well acted, like for me, the most rewatchable films are like, it's like Spinal Tap or something like that, where the comedy, the lines are so good and the acting's so good that you can never really internalize that nuance. Every time you see it, it's exciting. So I think it's really rewatchable. I'd say like 4.5, yeah.
Laila.
So I would say 4, because it's very similar to Barney. I've watched it twice now and there was bits that I just did not pick up on. And also for me, rewatching a film is such a gift because I'm one of those people that I have one of those brains when I'm watching a film, even if it's like a nice film, who's going to die? What's going to happen? And my brain is always trying to figure out what's going to happen in the film. And so for me, rewatching a film where you know what's going to play out, it's like I can sort of relax and watch it. I love watching films, but I've noticed, especially when I'm stressed, I'll be 2 steps ahead of the actual film and I'll be thinking about what could happen instead of being present. And I think especially with this film, with Creep, there's, again, like Barney said, there's so much to pick up on because it cracks along because it's only an hour and 17 minutes as well. At no point do you think, like, you got to move on now. Like, even when the guy's in his house, you get to see his house. Even though you only ever see the 2 of them, I love the way that you see where Josef lives. And then, is it Aaron, the other guy? You actually get to see his place. And this time round, I was actually able to look around and see Aaron, look at Aaron's place and see that he's just a normal guy. Maybe he had a girlfriend, maybe he didn't. You sort of like, you got to have a bit more, get to know the character, characters better. Not that you want to know Josef better, but well, I guess you do, because he's charismatic, isn't he? And he's charismatic, but he's also, oh yeah, he's such a complicated guy.
Repeat viewing score, Helen.
So I've seen it twice. The first watch is you're just watching it and you're just like, I've got no idea where this is going. Oh my God, it's going there. I can't believe it. And then the second watch is, even though you know it's all happening, you still can't escape the feeling of like, oh my God, where is it going? Yeah, it's still going there. Whoa. And the second watch, you definitely see a lot more of the warning signs and you're just like, oh my God, this is just too much. So yeah, I don't know how much more I'll watch it, but I enjoyed those two watches, if you can say enjoyed. So I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Yeah, I've seen it twice now. I don't think I'll watch it again, to be honest with you, but I think it does bear repeat viewing. So I'll give it a 3. Small screen score. Barney.
Well, this is where this is a winner, because the smaller the screen, this could be on if you watch this on a little old VHS colour square TV in a hotel in America, that's its strength.
That's where it wins.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. It's just cut from its own little cloth, and if it works for you, it works brilliantly. So yeah, I mean, I think small screen, I think 5, because it is what it is. Like that's where it works, because it's supposed to be handheld footage. So yeah.
Laila.
I agree with Barney. Yeah, 5 for me, because you know what? I would have actually 4, because I would have loved to have the experience, because going to the cinema and watching a good film is a real experience. So I'm going to say 4, but clearly.
Paranormal Activity in the cinema was 10 times better than I've ever seen it on TV. Yeah, 10 times better. And that one where Idris Elba fights a lion, it's a terrible film, but seeing him fight a lion in the cinema, well, that doesn't anything to do with that, but yeah.
Helen.
Yeah, so I've only ever seen it on Netflix on the TV, and yeah, it does have kind of like that small claustrophobic feel, but I would love to see Creep 1 and Creep 2 at the Prince Charles. I was just having a look now, and I don't think they've ever had it, but I think that would be a good outing, so I'm going to give it a 4.
I'm going to give it a 5. I think this is perfect for the small screen. Collective viewing experience would have been great, but yeah, this is great. And I think the way the lo-fi, I've used that term a few times today, the lo-fi nature of its shooting, I think just does lend itself to that. You've put a VHS tape in or early video disc, so it kind of ties in with that kind of sentimentality. Engagement score, Barney.
It's not only is it totally, because it's so madcap and short and it cracks along, it's compelling. The pacing of it is a little odd, as you've got that split in the middle. Kind of it reminds me of Saltburn in that sense. There's very much 2/3, and then there's a third at the end that's almost an addendum. But then when you watch it, it's not like you lose your interest there. It just takes you into a different place, so it kind of wrong-foots you a little bit. So the pacing of it is very engaging. But what I think the key thing to this is, and this is a key thing to a good horror, what makes a good horror, and what like Get Out, The Witch, Midsommar, all these films got in common, you've got to nail the ending. If you nail an ending, it can turn a mediocre film into an excellent one. And it can take a horror that you have been engaged with for an hour and 15 minutes. And if the last 10 minutes are crap and they have to try and finish it all up and it ends on a bad note, then it can make a film that was otherwise excellent rubbish. You have to nail the ending in a horror, and a film that did that is, what was that one with the reveal that I told you to watch, the James Wan one? It's one word, not Maleficent, not Malignant. That's just a banging ending, and the whole film's pretty rubbish, but it knows. I love that Creep nails the ending. It's got one last trick up its sleeve, and the amount of time he stares at him and he's like, you are like turn around, but that it knows you're like that, and he's just sat there and he's like, nice guy, and he's almost like, I'm not going to do it. It just takes so long to do it, and then he does it, and then he's just down like a sack of spuds, and then he hits him again, and then it does the reveal of the videos. I think the ending is, so it not only does it engage you, the ending's great. So I'd give it 4.5, but it's like that's what it nails it, and then it ramps it up one. So it's brilliant, yeah.
Laila.
For engagement, I'll give it 4, because it's so engaging. You don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea. The first time I watched it, I'd not read about it. I didn't know anything. I thought it'd be a bit like Blair Witch because of the handheld camera, but it was, even second time round, super engaged because you care. You're Aaron and you're invested in this guy that is he in danger? Is he not in danger? Oh, he's in danger. And yeah, the end. Like, how can you not be engaged with that end?
Helen.
Yeah, so this is super short, and I think if it was a bit longer, it would probably be a little bit saggy, but yeah, super, super short. I'm going to give it 4.5 as well.
Yeah, I'll give it 4.5. I think the first time I saw it, I had no idea where it's going. And like I say, is he in danger? Is he not in danger? Is he just a nice guy who's a bit disturbed because he's got, a death sentence and he's just trying to connect with a kid who's not born yet? Or is he, out to kill him for fun? You'd no idea until the knife goes until the axe, until Aaron gets home, is Aaron who gets home? Who's the director? Until the director gets home and then he starts being stalked and you're like, actually, there's definitely something wrong about this guy. And then the axe goes into his head and you're like, well, yeah, there's definitely something wrong about this guy. On the second time watching it, I only really remembered Peach Fuzz and I remember the axe going into his head and I couldn't remember the ins and outs again. And the engagement was still high on the second viewing. So I'm going to give it a 4.5. Yeah. And that gives an overall score of 4.11250. This is very
good, yeah.
High. Yeah.
Well done, weird film.
Yeah. Well done, Creep.
Creep 3, when?
Yeah.
Is there definitely going to be one?
They're struggling with it, apparently. They're struggling to find the right story.
Well, when you said, like, Creep, it never outstays its welcome, but it gets to the point where, yeah, I've had enough of that. And then Creep 2 is the logical sort of like, okay, we're going to do it again. And it wasn't as good for me. I'll give it another watch at some point, but it's like he's now got a silly sidekick. It's that's not a spoiler, but yeah, I just didn't like it as much.
Well, guys, can you tell us where we can find you online, live, if you're touring, your website, anything like that? And we'll say goodbye to the listeners.
Yeah, so if you can go to Sonic Boom 6, and the 6 is SIX.co.uk. We're touring throughout the year. We're playing festivals this summer as well. So come and check us out.
Fantastic. And I assume you're on Spotify and you can buy your albums where albums can be bought.
Yeah. We've got lots of albums, lots of music. We've got a couple of new songs that came out this year. You can go to YouTube and we've got loads of videos on there. So you can see how we are creative visually. Yeah.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure to speak to you guys. Thank you very much for bringing Creep to us finally. And we'll say goodbye.
Cheers, guys. It's been a pleasure. Well, thanks for having us.
Bye.
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 Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.